Hey, welcome to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and today I've got a fountain pen review. And today what we're going to look at is the Pilot 3000... No. Today what we're going to look at is the Pilot 3... Today what we're going to look at is the Pilot Today what we're going to look at is the Pilot Sung... No. Today what we're going to look at is the Prera... This is the... I have no idea what pen this is. This is terrible. Let me start over. Just a second. Let me check one more time. This is the Wing Sung 3003, and it's pretty much a Pilot Prera XL. I just did a recent review on the Pilot Prera. Excellent pen, really like it. This is probably about 1/30th the cost of a Pilot Prera, and I saw it the other day. I ordered this weeks ago before I even realized the resemblance. For some reason, it just didn't catch that it looked so much like the pen. But then when it came, it pretty much looks like a larger Pilot Prera. Now, I'm a big Wing Sung fan, and they make really good pens. I'm a big Pilot fan. They make some really good pens. But can this really live up to the example of the Pilot Prera? Let's actually compare the two in this review and see. They really are an awful lot alike. Do a little bit of side-by-side comparison here as I review the Wing Sung. I'm not really trying to compare it to the Prera in terms of the way it writes or things like that, because they really are different parts of the market. They're not really aimed at the same, maybe the same buyer, but not for the same reasons. So just, very different pens, but wow, do they look a lot alike. So much so that I really think the Wing Sung 3003 is simply a Prera XL in terms of its design. It really does. And I actually kind of hold off sometimes on accusing people of just making copies. And Wing Sung can be pretty creative and make some great pens, and I really like them. But this one, it's like they put it in the photocopier and hit 10% enlarge, because that really is pretty much the design of this pen. Now, there are some differences, and we'll point those out along the way. But that's, in a lot of ways, that's what it is. Now, one immediate difference, when I feel the pens, for some reason, I can tell a difference. The kind of plastic they use is likely quite different. The feel of it is different. This one has, you probably don't see them really in the camera here. It has some either manufacturing or storage and shipping scars. Nothing bad at all. Not anything real bad. It just looks like I've already owned it for several weeks instead of looking brand new out of the package. There's just a few little small fine scratches that probably came through the manufacturing or shipping process, and you certainly don't get that. This one still looks brand new, even though I've had it quite a bit longer than I've had this blue pen. One difference about it that you'll see as you look it over is that there is this injection mark here for the end there of the barrel, and at the top of the cap you will find a decorated finial. It's kind of funny because in every other way, the tops of these caps are extremely similar. Just not a lot of difference, except that they have their logo and Pilot left theirs blank. So a little bit different, and that logo it's a little crooked. If you watched another video of mine, you know that I really wish I could straighten that, but I cannot. The clip is not identical, but it's awfully close. It doesn't have quite as much of this is a smoother bend right here, where there is a little bit of a kink in the bend on the Pilot Prera by design. Other than that, extremely similar, and it's a good clip, about the right amount of springiness. That's not so important to me, but I know that it is to some of you because of the way that you carry these pens in your pockets. And it's not going to be one like I have an orange Wing Sung. I don't remember the model number at the moment, and I can barely get that into a pocket. I don't carry it in a shirt pocket because of that. Love the pen otherwise, but this one works out well. One difference, though, I will say, they both have a good click when you put the cap on. But this pen, kind of like a Jinhao that I have, just spins very freely once it's on. You can even maybe hear a little bit of a mouse squeak, you know. So there is that difference. And that is not so with the Pilot Prera. It just snicks on there really, and it is tight. There's friction there. So that's a difference. If you look at this pen, it is, again, just an extra large. I mean, that's the only difference between those designs. If you're not familiar with the Prera, then I guess this is actually the small. It just depends on how you look at that. When you open up the cap, it still looks an awful lot like the other pen. It has a Pilot style nib, and I find this to be a pretty good nib, as I'll show you in the writing test. But let me give you a close-up here of that, so that you can see that a little bit better. This one is an extra fine, and the my Prera is, if I remember right, a fine, and they're really close. The Wing Sung extra fine and the Pilot fine, really close in the way they write. And I'll do a side by side here in a little bit to show you that, although they do have different ink in them. But it has a nicely decorated nib. The Pilot, just to show you that side by side, is plainer, but the etching is a bit nicer. So that's just, you know, the way they are. Typical for a Pilot nib, and this is typical for a Wing Sung nib. It, like the Prera and like a lot of Wing Sungs, this is not because they copied it. A lot of their sections are this way, their feeds are this way. It's smooth and transparent, so that's the color of the ink. I have this J. Herbin Sapphire Blue in it right now, and so you can see that really pretty color blue. It does come, like most Chinese pens and like every Wing Sung that I've got, it comes, with a converter. Let me focus that for you. And so it's an effective converter. I have no problems with those. Seems to work great. Just a normal piston converter. But that's great because it will also take international standard cartridges, international short cartridges, and you can use your own ink with the included converter, which is not included with the Prera, even at its 10 times price. So there's that. The design of the pen, as I said, if you've seen the Prera review, and I'll put a link up there, then you've already seen a review of the design pretty much. It's just that a little bit longer. Nice simple design. It's nicely done. It's made well enough. I haven't put these on a scale, but their weight has to be very close to the same. If there's an edge, it might be slight to the Prera. I think the plastic's denser, and that's why they feel a little bit higher quality, and well, they feel higher quality and a little bit more heft, but not a lot more heft. Just a little. So let's now turn the camera around again, and let's put these two pens to a writing side-by-side test. Okay, so let's see how this writes and see if I can keep these pens straight. At least with the color difference, I don't think that'll be a problem. This is the Wing Sung 3003. I mentioned earlier, this can be bought as a demonstrator, and a lot of people, I think it's probably the most popular configuration of this pen, and it may be of the Prera as well, I'm not sure. So it's definitely what I see most of these as, but they do have some other colors. Most of them are bright. There's this, yellow, orange, and I forget what the other color is, but I think if they brought it out in black, I think that would be a handsome pen in black. So Wing Sung, this is a J. Herbin. And this is the Eclat de Saphir, color Sapphire Blue. And this, again, this nib is an extra fine. I think it writes closer to a fine. I like it. You may hear, as I'm writing, what might sound like scratchiness, but it's really not a scratchy nib. It's not so much that it's real smooth, but instead I would say it gives feedback similar to a mechanical pencil. It's smoother than that, but you know what I mean. It just it's not a silent writer, and the ink flow is just about right if you like a fine or extra fine dry nib. I don't think you're going to get a lot of bleed through with this on most papers because it's not putting out that much ink, but it definitely keeps up. I have had not a single hard start, no skipping, nothing whatsoever. It has completely kept up with everything that I've done. You can see there, it's just not even a problem, and it's not overly wet there, and not too dry either. It has a nice balance. So this pen, I like it. I think it writes well. It's a nice feedback. It's not, again, totally buttery smooth. Buttery, is that even a word? Buttery smooth. But it gives a nice feedback. I kind of like that. It's not dragging. I like a bit of feedback. I like it to sometimes a pen that writes, depending on what I'm doing, kind of like a pencil. I tend to write better that way. I have no idea why, but that is true. So that's the Wing Sung. Here is just by comparison, since they clearly look so much alike. This is the Pilot Prera, and you can. I did review that just last week, so you can check that review out if you want to. And this is just a Pilot black ink. This is what came in it, and I'm still using that cartridge. It's got to be nearly empty, but that's what this is, just a standard black from Pilot, which doesn't give you totally the same review, obviously, or a comparison. It's not a direct comparison because you've got different ink. But this one is smoother, still gives some feedback. This one has a little bit more, probably doesn't come through so much on the video, but it has a little bit of some natural line variation more than this. This is a stiffer steel nib than this seems to be, and so this is a much more consistent line. This one has some give to it, but not much at all. But you will be able to see some variation if you write with it very much. So, and let me just show you, I think they're probably, I haven't done this test yet, so I'll see it when you see it, but I think they're probably no, that's drier. I was gonna say they were close. That's drier than the Wing Sung. So there you go, a side-by-side with a pen that it clearly is inspired by and looks an awful lot like. There's your difference in the size. It really is like they just put it in a photocopier and hit enlarge. But you know, quality-wise, there's some differences, and that's not a knock against the Wing Sung. It's a great quality pen for one that costs less than $2. I did not pay $2 for this pen, and so for the cost difference, you're actually getting dollar for dollar an incredible value in this one, and certainly more for the money in this pen than this pen. But this is by far the higher quality, nicer touches, longer lasting. This is the pen you could give your kid someday or your grandkid someday, and this pen is probably not. But again, it might surprise me. Wing Sung does surprise me sometimes with their pens. They write well and they make a good pen. It's just, you know, which market are you in? What is it? What's your budget? Pick the one that you want depending on that budget. This is going to be a little bit nicer, but this is not going to be, I don't think, a disappointment. Like I said, the plastic will wear a little bit more. You just know what you're getting. And so you get what you pay for it. In this case, you get a little bit more than you pay for. But it is a good pen. So thank you very much for watching. I encourage you to like and subscribe. And I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful weekend. And God bless you. And I'll see you in the next review.